This time we are on a toy hunt at the greatest toy shop I have ever been to, the Nerd Base, and unbeknownst to me, I'm about to pick up the rarest toy I've ever found.
Pick up! Food in the games room! Rush trips! Not game hunting!
Hello again folks and welcome back to a very special video. That's because today we are going on a toy hunt. Now more often than not on the channel we are of course all about game hunting, but today we are making an exception. That's because we are going to what I believe is the best toy shop in the whole of the UK, the Nerd Base. Like I said, right here on the channel we are mainly about video game hunting, but we do the occasional toy hunt. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos every Saturday night at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, let's hit the road to the Nerd Base. This is the Nerd Base in Battlebridge in Essex, an absolutely incredible toy shop split over multiple floors and rooms, and honestly this is just one of those places you need to see to believe. It is absolutely ginormous, and straight away I'm finding toys which I'd love to have in my collection. Like, check out these Gremlins 2 figures. These are super duper cool, and these are normally the kind of figures I'm looking for. The high-end kind of adult collectibles, the realistic statues per se, just these really premium figures. And the Nerd Base straight off the bat had an absolutely incredible collection of these. Now more often than not I am an in-box collector, so I like to find kind of figures that are easy to display, either with plastic covers or just open covers. I don't like cardboard boxed figures when you can't see the figure. For me, they're just not worth having in the collection, even though I might make an exception for this Earl Sinclair Dinosaurs figure. Now unfortunately didn't have the two figures which NECA have released so far, being Earl and a baby. Otherwise I think these are to come home from me. They're definitely two figures that I physically need for my collection. Now, since the 90s, I've been a massive fan of the Kenner Aliens figure line, but they've really expanded this line. A lot of these figures have been reimagined in recent years, and this Prey figure was super cool in this kind of plastic blood effect case, and this leopard alien as well was really cool. We are merely scratching the tip of the iceberg though here at the Nerd Base. Like I said, this store is absolutely massive, split over multiple rooms and multiple floors, and there is so much to see. If you are planning a visit, you will need a good couple of hours to see everything, and I expect even if you spend hours at the Nerd Base, you still will not see everything. I went round multiple times this visit, and I'm sure there's still loads and loads I missed, but trust me, I found some awesome stuff. Now, when it comes to collecting wrestling figures, I'm kind of a casual collector. I collect in-box AEW figures, the classic Hasbro figures, and some of the newer WWE figures. But the Nerd Base had one of the biggest selections of wrestling figures I've ever seen. And honestly, this was pretty overwhelming. There are so many different wrestling figure kind of subsets. You've got your elite figures, your basics, your legacy figures, then you've got like other corporations, so not just WWE or WWF, you have WCW figures, AEW figures. There was a lot going on here. If I had another separate room, yes, I would have a wrestling themed room, but space is finite, so I did pass on these today. There are few toy franchises that have as many lines as TMNT. Check out this TMNT horror line. So here we have Michelangelo as the Mummy. I'm not sure how I feel about these kind of horror crossovers for TMNT. Don't get me wrong, I love horror, but I'm not really sure it fits for TMNT. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know I just said I'm running out of space in the games room, but I could make an exception for this. Look at this full-size Gremlin. Yes, it was like 200 quid, but this would look absolutely incredible in the games room. Here we have yet another TMNT toy line, this time a Power Rangers crossover, and I kind of feel like they're reaching a bit with this one. It's basically the exact kind of sculpt, but with different heads. So I think this is a toy line I still have one or two boxes of these figures for, but not one I'm going to be actively collecting, unlike these new kind of Jurassic Park figures, the kind of 93 classic collection. I think these are super cool, as this was my Jurassic Park toy line back in the day, but I did pass on this kind of glider figure just because, like I said earlier, it's all cardboard. You can't see the figure at all, and for me it's kind of a failure. But it is a super cool figure, amazing artwork, but I did decide to pass on this one this time. Just next to David Tennant, here we have everyone's favourite Star Wars character, Jar Jar Binks, but hiding behind them was this full-scale AEW wrestling ring. Now, I really want one of these authentic scale wrestling rings to display wrestling figures. I think this is about 80 quid, but I just feel like if you're going to display wrestling figures, you need the authentic scale ring. But once again, it's just having a space to display it. Speaking of space, how many people are guilty of having way too many Funko Pops in their collection? But I just keep looking at them. I don't know how they just somehow find their way into the games room and just set up, even though some of these Fallout ones and these Doom ones were very, very cool. But no, I just need to stop it. I need to stop making exceptions and not allow any more Funko Pops into my games room. Even though this one's pretty cool, no, put it down, leave it, just stop it. This goes to prove my point from earlier. Is this a TMNT Power Rangers crossover or just Power Rangers figures? They are so similar. Honestly, sometimes it's hard to tell. There was a really good selection of board games here. I did have a slight look because there was some pretty cool bits, such as this Jurassic Park chess set, which if you're going to have a chess set in your house, it might as well be a Jurassic Park one, or maybe this Lord of the Rings chess set. Some of these are really, really cool, but once again, it's all about space, even though this could be the tabletop game I jump into in 2025, Star Wars Shatterpoint. But it's not just modern and brand new toys. Here at the Nerd Base, they also have an absolutely massive selection of retro toys, all displayed here in these glass cabinets of dreams. And honestly, any toy line you can think of, chances are it's going to be represented here at the Nerd Base. And there are some toy lines here that either I have never seen before, or I just haven't thought about in literally years. Like Micro Machines. I haven't seen Micro Machines since I was a very young boy. Some really cool Power Rangers stuff here. Some Transformers bits. Some really nice Mighty Max bits. But for me, up until recently, this was my favourite toy line of all time. The Playmates TMNT figures, which were only surpassed recently when NECA brought out the TMNT cartoon line. Because honestly, I just think somehow they took those original figures and just perfected them. Speaking of perfection, we have some Jurassic Park figures coming up. Still one of my favourite toy lines of all time. As well as this, the Kenner Aliens figure set. Which I will still, to this day, never understand why this toy line exists. Like, why were they kind of advertising the Aliens films to kids? I'll never understand that. But these will forever be some of my favourite toys of all time. The original Kenner 1993 Jurassic Park toy line. Here is quite possibly my favourite toy of all time, the GOAT, the Kenner 93 T-Rex. I love this thing so much. If you ever had Crash Dummies back in the day, you will know this is one of the most fun toy lines ever made. It was literally a toy which was made to be broken. I absolutely loved these. You just kind of drove the car, it fell apart. It was absolutely fantastic. Such a fun toy line. Here is a toy line which I've just started to collect for recently, the WWF Hasbro figures. Now, in between these, you can see mingled in some of the newer figures. So you might recognise some more recent wrestlers, such as Bray Wyatt, and some other ones snuck in here. I think it's really cool. They've kind of re-released these figures with the same style. As I said earlier, back in the day, my favourite figure line was the TMNT Playmates figures of the late 80s. And this was the pièce de résistance of that toy line, the Turtle Van. And here we have it in the box. Now, sadly, this had seen better days, so I did decide to pass on this one because the box was a bit tattered. The stickers were faded on the van, and honestly, I do already have a loose van in my collection. But hiding behind this was something I had never seen before, and this piqued my interest. This Catwoman from Channel 6 TMNT box set. Now, I had no idea what this was, and I didn't realise how rare this was at the time. Now, you can see, of course, I'm impressed by this. Being a TMNT geek, this was pushing all my buttons. I was like, this looks super cool. It's a NECA TMNT box set I've never seen before. And here I am opening it up very, very gently. And you can see inside, when I pop this front open, it has 4 TMNT NECA figures. Now, this had quite the high price tag, but this was very, very rare. Now, I never decide what I'm going to pick up until I've seen everything a shop has to offer. So you'll have to stick around until the end of the video to find out if I picked up this incredibly rare TMNT figure set. And carrying on the TMNT theme, upstairs at the Nerd Base, they had some of the newer Mutant Mayhem figures, as well as some of the kind of 2010s figures, which honestly, I don't really have any nostalgia for. It was kind of that period of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I wasn't really a big fan of. But I am a fan of the new Mutant Mayhem movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. For me, it just captured everything which is great about Turtles. That kind of teenage angsty kind of feel. And yeah, it was just absolutely perfect. And honestly, it's the best Turtles thing I've seen in years. This, of course, drew me in the TMNT NECA section. I know I'm saying it repeatedly, but this is my favourite toy line of all time. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just the figures look perfect. It literally looks like the cartoon has jumped off the screens into figure form. And they had some really cool figures here. But honestly, a lot of these were fairly common figures. These are figures I can easily jump on Amazon or some other toy site and just buy. So I did pass on these this time. Of course, I am going for a full TMNT NECA set, which is an absolutely absurd task, but I do love the kind of crossovers like this one. Now, I couldn't remember which one of the Cobra Kai box sets I don't have. I know I have 3 of these in my collection already because honestly, I love the Cobra Kai series, so I did pass on this one, but I do need to finish that set. Here we have yet another new set of Turtles figures. Now, I think these are kind of a diorama which connect together if you pick all 4 of these figures up. And honestly, it costs over £100 to get all 4, so I did pass on this set for now. But it's not just toys here at the Nerd Base, they also have video games. More specifically, they have a lot of collector's edition video games in at the moment, including this Watch Dogs 2 collector's edition, which looked pretty cool. Once again, space is at a premium for these collector's editions, and normally for bigger ones like this, I will stick to games which I absolutely love. And while I enjoyed Watch Dogs 2, I wouldn't say I loved it. But they had some really cool stuff in here. Like, look at this figure here. I have never seen a Ratchet and Clank figure before. Unfortunately, it was kind of one of the lesser characters, so I did pass on that one. But I just love these big collector's editions. Like, look at this Assassin's Creed one. I think these can look really good on the shelves, but again, it does come down to space. But I do love a good video game statue, such as this one right here. For Killzone 3, one of the best collector's editions I think I've seen for a very, very long time. I was tempted by this, but I have been on the lookout for this one for a very long while. I'm looking to get it boxed, but sometimes I think, because the main part of this collector's edition is the statue, is it just worth picking up the statue by itself? Let me know what you do in the comments down below. With a lot of these collector's editions, I simply take out the cool bits and then just put the rest into storage. So maybe I am better off just buying the statues. This was kind of cool. This Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition once again. So I presume somebody just traded in their entire Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition collection. This one was pretty cool, but again, it's one of those ones, yes, it's cool, but it would probably just gather dust on the shelf. And I've kind of fallen out of love with the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I would say this is slightly less exciting than the statue, but let me know in the comments down below your thought on collector's editions and, more importantly, displaying them. But as a light gun fan, this is something I do need for my collection, the Sega Menacer. The competition of the SNES Super Scope, and honestly, I think this one kinda looks cooler, even though both light guns had a very small amount of games for which they actually supported, but this for me just screams 90s. It screams retro, and as a light gun fan, one day I need to have this in my collection. The Nerd Base isn't just toys, it isn't just video games, it also has an absolutely ginormous library of comics. Like, look at the size of this comic collection, and also look at that Batmobile, because that is a thing of beauty. But if you're a Batman fan, there's a lot of cool Batman stuff coming up in a minute. But first off, we have some of the rarer comics, and also some graded comics. And this was cool to see the complete run of the Last of Us comic. Now, when it comes to comics, I am kind of fussy with what I'll pick up. More often than not, I will only pick up comics if they are video game crossovers. That's because, yes, I'm a massive fan, Marvel, DC, everything like that, but honestly, it's all about space. And yes, I could have a ginormous comic book collection, but I'd rather keep it really concise and curated and really make it my perfect collection. Now, I'm not the biggest Superman fan, just because I think the fact he's so powerful makes it kind of ridiculous, but this box set was super cool. I love the kind of black and white sketch effect on these figures. As I said, not a fan of Superman, but this was super cool. We're coming to the end of our hunt here at the Nerd Base, but there's still loads to see, including a surprisingly large amount of modern yet retro-inspired Batman merchandise. Now, my wife especially is a massive fan of old school Batman, so she was in her element here, and there was some really cool things to see, including some loose Marvel Legends figures, including the Blob, one of my favourite characters, and this has to be my favourite car from any toy line or movie, the Batmobile, because honestly, name a cooler car than a Batmobile. This was big and expensive. This Spider-Man 2099 statue, but there was a lot of bits like this kind of Batman gadgets, and some really weird ones coming up in a minute. Kind of cool, but also I don't like the fact these are all just kind of boxed, so you can't really display them. I guess you could kind of put them on a stand in front of the cardboard box, but as a kind of mainly in-box collector, a lot of these figures sadly just don't interest me. This is a figure line I have a singular figure for, the Invincible figures, and I only have Invincible himself, and honestly I think the only other figure I'd really like to add to my collection is Omni-Man. Like, nothing against the other characters, but it's a toy line, it's one I just want to keep clear and concise. Holy gadgets, Batman, even more accessories here for your bat belt. Now, sadly, all of these are, of course, non-functioning, which I think is a bit of a shame, as I think some of these radios could be super duper cool. But like I said, there were some questionable accessories here, like, who is buying Batman handcuffs? It's kind of a bit of a weird one, but, you know, like I said, they have everything here at the Nerd Base. But of all the figure lines they've released for Batman over the years, these have to be my favourite. The Batman animated series figures. These just look so cool and so like the series. I can't believe I almost missed this Fallout TV series statue box set. It's actually my wife who found this one, and I was very pleased she found it. She was the one who's footing the bill for today's toy hunt as a birthday and Christmas present. It was an absolutely incredible way to celebrate both my birthday and Christmas, hunting for incredible items for my collection, care of my wife, here at the Nerd Base. As I said earlier, when it comes to comic book collecting, I like to keep my collection curated, but it's difficult when you can see all the new releases here for the Christmas week at the Nerd Base. There was some incredibly cool variant covers, but like I said, I try to keep my comic book collecting to video game crossovers, which is very difficult because look at that TMNT cover, look at that shiny DuckTales. There were some really cool releases this week, and honestly, I just think comic book covers can be a thing of absolute beauty, especially when you get variants, if you excuse the pun, with the TVA comic here. Incredibly cool. Loki was one of my favourite series for a very long time, and I absolutely love the artwork on his TVA comics. We're coming to the end of our hunt here at the Nerd Base, but like I said earlier in this episode, I always like to have one more scout round the store to make sure there's nothing I miss before I lock in my purchases for the day. And I was very lucky to be being spoiled by my wife, not just for my birthday, but for Christmas. And we had a decent budget to pick up some absolutely incredible items, but there's just so much to see here at the Nerd Base. Even on this second time through, I was finding cool things which I missed on our first walk round. Things like this. This is an absolutely iconic toy from one of my favourite series from when I was a boy. Back in the day, I was a massive fan of all of the Jerry Anderson programmes, and his Captain Scarlet Cloud Base was super cool. But when it comes to Jerry Anderson, who didn't want Tracy Island back in the day, but I wasn't sure. Is this a more modern re-release of that classic 90s toy? I wasn't sure, but of course, if I was going to add a Tracy Island to my toy collection, it would just have to be that iconic 90s original. While I was in Battlebridge, I did visit a few of the massive antique shops they have in the same area. And of course, while I was there, I was looking for video games. But what I wasn't expecting to find was video game soundtracks. And I found this Resistance 3 soundtrack, and then I started kind of sifting through some more of these CDs, as there seemed to be quite a lot of video game soundtracks. These were all £1.50 each, and honestly, this is something you just don't see very often. But of course, there was video games here. I did pick this up, the Simpsons game, for £3. This traded into CX for some decent money, so might as well just grab that while I was here. But I did have a really good dig through these games. There were some pretty good titles here, but most of these were priced about normal, which honestly is what you expect more often than not when you're kind of hunting for video games at one of these antique shops per se. But there was some pretty cool stuff here. It's definitely worth visiting these shops if you're in the area, as well as of course visiting the nerd base. But I did have a better dig through here to see if there's any more CD kind of soundtracks for video games. So I did manage to find a few more here. And like I said, this is something I do not see very often, so for £1.50 I did pick all of these soundtracks up. I checked them on eBay and they were selling for quite a bit more, and honestly, they're just a cool little oddity to have in the collection. So that was Battlebridge, mainly the nerd base, but if you're in the area, make sure you check out the antique shops as well, as honestly, you never know what you're going to find. Now let's take it back to the games room, and I'm going to show you my absolutely incredible pickups. Here we are then back in the games room, and wow, just wow. The nerd base never disappoints, and this is why I truly believe it could well be the best toy shop here in the UK, both for retro and modern toys. And trust me, I have some absolutely incredible pickups this time. But first off, we have this bag of pickups which I found in an antique shop just down the road from the nerd base, and trust me, you can spend an entire day in Battlebridge. There are so many incredible antique shops, and I couldn't believe it when I found all of these video game soundtracks in the antique shop. So we have a game I've never heard of, Broken Age CD soundtrack. I'm a massive CD fan, obviously video game fan, so video game soundtracks, no brainer. We have Brothers in Arms, absolutely incredible game. Halo Wars, amazing soundtrack. The Halo music to this day is still some of the best music in any video game. Then we have For Honor, bit of a failure game, but then Resistance 3, incredible PlayStation 3 game, and finally Homefront, the original soundtrack. Now the price of these is all over the place on eBay, but these are all brand new and sealed. I paid £1.50 for each of these, and honestly, this could be the start of an amazing new CD video game collection. Now, I was absolutely spoilt for choice when I was hunting at the nerd base, but as soon as I saw this Movie Maniacs Fallout box set, I knew I had to have it. This is a thing of absolute beauty. As a Fallout fan, I fell in love with this the second I saw it. So it's a set of 4 figures. It is limited edition of 10,000. And I just love the fact you can actually display this in the box. I think the background really adds to it. I have never seen this before, and like I said, I just wanted something based on the Fallout TV series for the collection, and this is absolutely perfect with the 4 statues and the Vault Boy, which is exclusive to this box set. I absolutely love this, and on any other day this would have been my best find of the day, but our final pickup from the nerd base is one of the most incredible toys I've ever found. This right here is our big pickup this time, and I do mean big. Look at the size of this. Now, I have never seen this box set before, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to have it. Now, the TMNT NECA cartoon toy line is my favourite toy line to collect for, and this is one of the most expensive, rarest pieces of that collection. It is the only way to get some of the figures contained in this absolutely incredible box set. Now, this was £145, but this is a rare set of collectible figures. This came out in 2021, and since has only gone up in value, and it is easy to see why. Like, just look at the artwork on this box set. It looks absolutely incredible. I love how it kind of looks like the Channel 6 news building, and just the absolutely iconic artwork from the Catwoman from Channel 6 episode. And here's the thing, it just gets cooler. So this bit slides off, then it has all of the figures inside here. So you can see even more incredible artwork here. And then when you slide this open, it has the Channel 6 news desk, and all of the figures inside. And I just absolutely love this set of figures. This is one of my favourite episodes of TMNT, and it just captures it so well. These 4 figures are incredibly hard to find. I'll put the eBay sold listings for this item on the side, and it's just absolutely incredible to be able to cross what is quite possibly the rarest TMNT figure box set off the list. Like, I just love this collection so much. It just captures the cartoon so well, and to be able to find this in the wild was an absolutely incredible find. And it just goes to show why I believe the Nerd Base is the best toy shop in the UK. There we have it then, folks. That was the Nerd Base. In my humble opinion, the best toy shop we have here in the UK. But if you disagree, comment down below what you believe is the best toy shop here in the UK. And who knows, maybe I'll be hunting there very soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you soon.